Hello and welcome to the second in a series of videos, and I'm joined again by Professor Michael Hulme. And in this video we'll be exploring what is meant by hyperconnectivity and what impact it has on customer communication and the overall customer experience. Michael, what do we actually mean by hyperconnectivity?
I suppose briefly, hyperconnectivity can be defined as the sum of our total connectivity. In other words, that today an individual has access to so many different means of communication, social media, email, text, video, etc. It means that our reach is increased, and also, I think, and very important from a corporate point of view, immediacy is increased as well.
And what impact does hyperconnectivity have on our language skills?
I think what is occurring is a set of expectations from customers that communication and therefore language skills will have to move between the formal and the informal. In other words, the nuances of communication are becoming more complex, and at the same time, of course, this is happening in a digital world, which means that that complexity and that nuance is also recorded and becomes a permanent record rather than just a transient conversation.
And what's the nature of the communications? I mean, is it are the shapes and types of those communications changing?
Yes, they are. And I think we've got two things going on here. One is the consumer themselves expects far more. And not only do they expect more, but they expect more appropriateness of response as well. So there's less margin for error. And particularly as we're likely to have communication drawn out over several different media, and each one of those media may well have slightly different nuances attached to it, it increases the complexity from a corporate point of view, and therefore means that there is a real need for much enhanced language skills.
So in conclusion, what impact would it have on a company if they don't recognise this hyperconnectivity?
Well, I think we could say there's probably two main impacts. The first one would be basically a failure in the eyes of the customer. It would be a failure to meet their needs because they couldn't represent properly the company or the needs of the consumer to the organisation. And secondly, and I think this is really quite worrying, because most of this conversation becomes a permanent record, there are also potential legal pitfalls. Mistakes that could be made in passing in more transient verbal conversations can become frozen and in the process actually leave the organisation exposed to some dangerous litigation at a later date.
Thank you, Michael. And in the next video, we'll be looking at some of the skill sets needed to address some of these needs.